Have you ever heard a laugh that didn't just sting, but rewrote the fate of the one who heard it? Not a joyful laugh, not a nervous laugh, but a sharp, cutting laugh that says, "You will never be good enough, and we are certain of it." War has recorded many things: the roar of engines, the thunder of artillery, the whispers of dying men. But among the most dangerous sounds ever heard was a room full of German pilots laughing at a photograph they barely understood. It wasn't the laugh that changed history. It was who they were laughing at. Men who had spent their entire lives learning how to rise above mockery. Men who turned that laughter into fuel. This is the story of America's Red Tails, and the day the laughter stopped. The Luftwaffe briefing room was cold despite the smoldering ashtrays cluttering the tables. The air smelled of leather, sweat, and smoke, a familiar cocktail to men who lived inside cockpits more than homes. The German commander slapped a photograph onto the table, a formation of American bombers. Behind them, fighter escorts marked by unforgettable streaks of crimson paint. "Gentlemen," he said, tapping the red tail section with a pencil, "these are your next opponents." Silence at first. Then the youngest ace in the room snorted. "The Americans paint their planes like circus toys now." Another pilot leaned closer. "No, I've heard rumors. These are their Negro pilots." A wave of laughter rolled across the room, throaty, confident, arrogant. "They send them to stop us. They won't even know how to aim. It will be target practice." One man didn't laugh. He just smirked, flicking ash from his cigarette. "Let them come," he muttered. "We'll end this quickly." But he had no idea how wrong he was. Meanwhile, in the dusty heat of Ramatelli Airfield, Italy, Lieutenant Elijah "Eli" Carter wiped grease from his hands and stared at the P-51 Mustang he had come to love. Red rudder, red tail, black pilot, white star, a combination some in the world still didn't believe in. "Your girl's looking good today," Smooth said behind him. Marcus Smooth Tillman, all swagger and mischief, leaned on a crate, smiling broadly. His flight jacket hung loose, his cap slightly crooked, as if defying gravity was a personality trait. Eli smiled slightly. "She'd better be. Germans don't give second chances." Captain Jameson Reed walked in, tall, composed, with a presence that quieted the rowdiest men. A Tuskegee instructor once called him the kind of pilot who could land on a cloud if he wanted. "Briefing in 10 minutes, Jameson said. "Eli, you're on Point Squad today." Eli felt his chest tighten. Point Squad was the first to engage, first to take fire, first to make mistakes, first to die. He nodded. "I'll be ready." Jameson's eyes softened. "You already are." Their missions were never just missions. For white pilots, flying was duty. For the red tails, it was proof. Proof the country that doubted them was wrong. Every morning they walked toward their planes with the unspoken understanding. One mistake confirmed every stereotype. One failure justified every insult. One loss threatened the progress of thousands of black men and women back home. Eli always thought about his mother, who worked 2 jobs so he could go to flight school. He imagined her hands, cracked from washing floors, guiding him every time he flew. He whispered before every takeoff, "Watch me, Mama. I'm going higher." The first time the Red Tails met the laughing pilots of the Luftwaffe, the world felt too quiet, too still. The bombers droned steadily ahead. The sky was painfully blue. Eli scanned the horizon. "Something's off," he muttered. Then, "Bandits, 10 o'clock high." Jameson's voice sliced through the radio. Black dots appeared above, growing larger with terrifying speed. German fighters, dozens. A Messerschmitt streaked past Eli's canopy, close enough that Eli saw the pilot's smirk. Then the German tilted his plane, wagged his wings mockingly. Smooth exploded with rage over the radio. "Oh, he thinks this is funny. Eli, you see that fool?" Eli didn't answer. He rolled into a climb. "Stay with the bombers," Jameson commanded. Eli gritted his teeth. "Copy that." But the German ace was circling back, ready to kill. The mocking German peeled down from above, diving toward Eli like a hawk toward prey. Eli's heart pounded, his fingers tightened. The world slowed. He pulled hard into a turn. The Mustang trembled as he flipped behind the enemy fighter. The German tried to climb, tried to run, tried to laugh one more time. Eli fired. A burst of sparks, a trail of flame. The Messerschmitt jolted violently. The German ace's laughter died long before his plane hit the clouds below. Smooth's voice burst through the radio, wild and joyful. "Eli, you shut him up good." But Eli didn't celebrate. His breath shook, his hands trembled. One kill, his first, and he knew many more were coming. Back in Alabama, Eli's sister Lena finished her shift at the sewing factory, fingers pricked and tired. She walked home along a dusty road, the sunset painting golden streaks across her worn shoes. At home, she turned on their old radio. Reports that the 332nd Fighter Group continues to escort American bombers deep into enemy territory. Lena placed her hand on her chest. "That's you, Eli," she whispered. Her mother watched from the doorway. "You worry too much," she said softly. "He's flying into storms of bullets, Mama." "And he'll fly out of them," her mother replied, "because he knows what he's fighting for." Lena closed her eyes. In the distance, she almost heard airplane engines. Or maybe it was just her. Hope. The red tails shocked the Luftwaffe. German intelligence officers gathered reports from surviving pilots. They don't run. They never leave the bombers. They fight like their lives depend on it. One commander studied the red-tailed planes on his map. "Who are these men?" His aide swallowed nervously. "They're the Tuskegee pilots, sir." The commander paused, then said slowly, "Then we will send our best against them." And he did. On a mission over Munich, disaster unfolded fast. Thick black smoke billowed from the city below as anti-aircraft guns hurled explosions into the sky. The bombers rocked violently, wings shimmering from shrapnel impacts. "Stay sharp," Jameson shouted. Smooth's laughter, usually steady even in danger, was missing. He was unusually quiet. Suddenly, crack! A shard of flak tore through Smooth's canopy, slicing across his shoulder. His P-51 jerked violently. "I'm hit! Controls messed, can't—" His voice dissolved into static. Eli's stomach dropped. "Smooth, Smooth, talk to me." But Smooth's plane entered a slow, spiraling descent. Eli's instincts screamed. His training screamed louder. "Stay with the bombers. Do not break formation. Do not abandon your post." It was their ironclad rule. Jameson barked through the radio. "Carter, hold formation. That's an order." Eli stared at Smooth's smoking plane spiraling down, losing altitude every second. He heard his mother's voice in his head. He heard Smooth's laugh. He heard the German pilot's mockery. He made his decision. "I'm sorry, Captain." Eli peeled away from formation. The bombers shrank behind him. Enemy fighters circled ahead. The ground rushed closer beneath him. Eli's heart hammered as he dove after his friend, because sometimes, even in war, a man's humanity outweighs his orders. Smooth's crippled P-51 hit the ground with a skidding scream of tearing metal. Dirt and grass sprayed like shrapnel. The plane jolted violently before ending in a crooked, smoking heap near the remains of an old stone monastery. Eli circled once, heart pounding so hard he could barely hear the engine. "Hold on, Smooth. I'm coming." He landed in a rough, uneven field. His Mustang bounced, dug into the earth, then finally slid to a halt. Eli leapt out before the propeller even stopped spinning. "Smooth! Marcus! Answer me!" He sprinted toward the crash, stumbling over broken stones and thorny grass. Smoke curled upward, filling his nose with the acrid smell of burning fuel. "Smooth!" he yelled again. A faint cough answered from inside the wreck. Eli tore open the canopy. Smooth was slumped, bleeding from the shoulder, but alive. "You look awful," Eli said, voice trembling with relief. Smooth groaned. "And you look too pretty to die in Germany. Help me out of here." Eli got him free moments before distant shouting echoed from beyond the trees. Enemy infantry drawn by the crash. "On your feet," Eli whispered, looping Smooth's arm over his shoulder. They slipped into the shadowy ruins of the monastery, broken pillars, collapsed arches, and crumbling staircases that once housed monks, but now hid war-torn pilots. They waited there for hours as German troops searched the area. At one point, a soldier walked so close Eli could hear him breathe. Eli held Smooth's mouth shut gently to quiet him, both men sweating in silence. Later, near dusk, the rumble of American armor shook the ground. Tanks and infantry advanced across the field. Eli lifted Smooth. "Time to go home," Smooth nodded weakly. "Remind me to never get shot again." Back at base, Eli felt the weight of what he'd done. Disobeying a direct order during war was no small offense. Many pilots had been grounded, punished, even dishonorably discharged for less. Jameson summoned him to the briefing tent. The whole unit watched as Eli walked in. Smooth sat nearby, arm bandaged, eyes filled with worry and something like guilt. Eli saluted. "Sir, I accept any consequences." Jameson raised a hand. "Sit." In the center of the table was a stack of letters. Eli frowned. "These," Jameson said, "came from the bomber crews you protected. Every single one of them." He slid the top letter toward Eli. Eli read, "Without the Red Tails, we would be dead. Without Lieutenant Carter returning for his wingman, we would have lost one of the best pilots protecting us." Eli looked up, stunned. Jameson leaned forward, voice low. "You broke formation, yes. But you saved your brother. And you didn't lose a single bomber doing it." He paused. "No punishment. No grounding. Just, don't make me worry like that again." Eli exhaled shakily. "Yes, sir." Smooth grinned. "I told them you only came back because I owed you $5. Eli shook his head. "I'd have let you die for $5. Their laughter filled the tent, the kind that pushed back fear if only for a moment. Word spread quickly. The Red Tails weren't just good. They were loyal. Their unity became legendary. Bomber groups requested them by name, refusing anyone else. A white bomber pilot told his crew, "If I see Red Tails behind us, we're getting home." Another whispered in awe, "They fly like they're chained together." Even German pilots began to refer to them with respect. They do not scatter. They do not chase glory. They fight as one. Eli, Smooth, and the rest understood something their enemies didn't. When the world doubts you, you either break apart or bind together so tightly nothing can pull you loose. They chose unity, and that unity made them unstoppable. One frigid morning, the Red Tails were assigned an escort mission deeper into enemy territory than they had ever flown. Jameson gathered the squadron. "This is Berlin airspace. Heavy flak. Elite fighters. The brass expects casualties." Silence fell. Then Smooth muttered, "Casualties? They talking about us or the Germans?" A few men chuckled, tension easing. Eli studied the map. The route cut directly through reinforced zones. "Sir, this is suicide." Jameson met his eyes. "Maybe, but if we don't go, the bombers don't come back. And if the bombers fail, this war drags on for months, maybe years. He looked around the room. Gentlemen, today we either make history or become it. No one backed down. The sky over Berlin was a nightmare painted in black and orange. Flak erupted around the bombers like fiery blossoms. Massive concussions shook the air, making the P-51s shiver in turbulence. "Stay close! Stay close!" Eli shouted. German fighters poured from the clouds. Messerschmitts, Focke-Wulfs, even jet-powered Me-262s joining the assault. Enemy tracers streaked past like red-hot needles. Smooth cursed as he banked hard. "They brought the whole dang Air Force," Jameson's voice crackled with intensity. "Protect the bombers. Do not break formation." Eli shot down a German fighter diving for a bomber's blind spot. Another enemy streaked past him. He chased just long enough to force it away, then snapped back toward the formation. "Carter, on your right," Smooth yelled. Eli rolled just in time, and Me-262 screamed past, its cannons missing him by inches. The sky was chaos, fire, smoke, death. Every second felt like a stolen moment. Jameson led the charge, as always, calm, commanding, unshakable. But leadership paints a target. A burst of cannon fire struck his engine. Flames erupted. "Captain, you're burning!" Eli yelled. Jameson coughed, trying to pull the plane up. "My controls, they're gone." Smoke filled his cockpit. His voice weakened. "Tell my wife I kept my promise, kept them safe." "Jameson!" Smooth screamed. "Pull up! Pull up!" But the burning P-51 tilted downward, spiraling toward the clouds. "Sir!" Eli cried. "Bail out, please!" But there was no reply. The Red Tails watched their leader vanish into the thick gray clouds below, leaving behind a silence heavier than any gunfire. Eli's hands trembled on the controls. Then something inside him hardened. "All Red Tails," he said quietly but firmly, "form on me." With Eli in command, the formation tightened. They became a wall of steel and fury, flying not for glory, not for numbers, but for Jameson. Enemy fighters regrouped for another assault. Eli whispered, "Not today." The Red Tails surged forward. Smooth took down one fighter. Eli took out two more. The squadron carved through the enemy lines with precision, born of grief and loyalty. Hours later, when the sky finally calmed, when the last German plane fled, when the bombers were safely heading home, the tally was counted. Over 100 enemy fighters downed, 0 bombers lost, a feat no other escort unit had achieved before. Lena heard the news on the radio back home. She covered her mouth with her hands, tears streaming. "Eli, you did it," she whispered. "You all did." German communications intercepted after the battle painted a picture the world did not expect. These red-tailed pilots, they are dangerous. They fly with discipline unmatched. They protect their bombers like brothers. We underestimated them. It was a mistake. The same pilots who had once laughed now spoke with something close to fear. A German ace wrote in his logbook, "Fighting the Red Tails is like fighting men who already decided they cannot die. They are different. They are determined. They are relentless." The laughter was long gone. When Germany finally fell, the Red Tails returned home, heroes. Eli stepped off the transport plane into warm American sunlight. The cheers of strangers filled the air, children waving flags, mothers crying, men saluting. Smooth walked beside him, limping slightly but grinning wide. "You think they finally see us now?" Smooth asked. Eli looked at the crowd, white, black, all cheering together. "Maybe some of them do," he said, "but we didn't fly for applause." "Then why'd we fly?" Smooth asked quietly. Eli smiled. "For the ones who believed in us, and the ones who needed to." Years later, at a reunion of Allied veterans, Eli stood beside an old P-51, painted with a bright red tail. He traced the metal with his fingertips, lost in memory. "Lieutenant Carter," a voice said behind him. Eli turned. A frail, gray-haired man stood there, leaning on a cane, trembling slightly. His accent was unmistakably German. "Do I know you?" Eli asked. The man swallowed. "I was the pilot you shot down, the one who mocked you, wagged my wings." His voice cracked. "Laughed at you." Eli froze. The man continued, tears gathering. "I survived the crash, and for decades I thought about that day, about how wrong I was. You proved something I did not believe then, but I do now." He extended a shaking hand. "A man's worth is not in his skin, but in his courage." Eli stared at the hand, then clasped it firmly. For a moment, two former enemies stood together, not as symbols of nations, not as warriors, but as men who had learned from each other in the most brutal classroom imaginable. The war had ended long ago, but its lessons echoed forever. And if you listen closely, you might still hear them in the sky.